Hello there, and welcome to another episode of EDHGeeks and another episode of Strictly Better, a series in which we dig into two different cards to see which one is strictly better than the other. And today we have a new card from Commander Legends that is going to be released relatively soon for everyone to get a hold of. Versus one of the most classic cards ever, one of the cards I've talked about fairly recently, Temple of the False God. The new card is called Guildless Commons. It's a colorless land that enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, you return a land card you control to your hand, and it taps for 2 colorless mana. So this is 100% strictly better, in my opinion, than Temple of the False God. There is usually in these episodes that I'm doing, I'm trying to have a discussion and do a comparative analysis between two cards to see if there is any reason that one card might be better than another card in certain circumstances. But in this circumstance, I just believe that this new card is an ultra staple, or it should be an ultra staple, or just simply replace anyone that is running Temple of the False God in their deck. Just run this card. It is going to be better for you for what you wanted to do, i.e. ramping you into more mana and having a colorless way to do this. This is basically a This is basically a worn Power Stone, because it comes into the battlefield tapped, and it taps for 2 mana. But it's kind of a Soul Ring that comes into the battlefield tapped, because it technically costs you 1 mana, because you have to bounce a land back to your hand. And I think this is much better than any Guild Gates. Just for the fact that this can be run in mono white, mono red, mono black, mono blue, all the mono colors, even mono green, I guess, but you probably wouldn't need to run this. But again, it's still better, in my opinion, than Temple of the False God. Having that one turn of it coming into play tapped and then you having to return a land is much less of a downside than Temple of the False God coming in on the same turn that this would come in, i.e. on turn 3, and you only have 3 lands, and you might not have your 4th and 5th land drops. So that Temple of the False God is essentially a dead card that you can do literal nothing with. Again, I've explained why that card is such a bad card, and everyone who's really played with it and seen it that is a issue knows why it's so bad. It just doesn't do anything, basically. I would much rather take this 1.5 turn off, maybe, to play this. I would put this in most of my non-green decks as a way to have a little bit more ramp on my lands and be able to accelerate my game plan, essentially, because like bouncing one land to have 2 mana and then 2 mana next turn, basically that means that I haven't bounced that land, then I play that extra land, I have had more lands. This has drawn me a card effectively to a degree, and it's drawn me a land which I might need as well. Or even if I don't need it at that point, then at least I can use it for discard fodder or what have you, and perhaps I can get some benefit off that, or I can get something out of that later. So everyone, if you're buying Commander Legends, I would recommend that you pick this card up. This is going to be probably a fairly budget card for the most part. From the set, it's probably going to be pretty easy to get one. I would suggest you getting this, replacing all your copies of Temple of False God with this card. It is just better off in your decks than Temple of the False God. Even when Temple of the False God is turned on, I still think this is better off for you for the times that it wouldn't be turned on, basically. And there is some sense to say, well, would I actually fetch this land in or into my hand with something like Expedition Map? Yes, I'd probably put this into my hand with Expedition Map if I needed more mana and I could actually do so. I would not do that with Temple of the False God unless I actually did have, the 5 lands, or I knew that I had the 4 others and that would be my 5th. I would do this at any point to get this card, so that you could, and there are ways that you can play additional lands in um, um, in non green decks and whatnot. There are some hoops that you certainly got to jump around, but there are ways. There's a terrain generator, but I believe that's only for basics. There's Walking Atlas, and there's just a few other effects that sort of allow you to put a land into play and whatnot, that would help you out. Or even if you just like missed your hand drop, or if you do have a way to perhaps play 2 lands on one turn, you might even want this. You might go, oh, I'll play this, and then I'll bounce a land, and then I'll replay that land. So now I've got even further value out of it. So there's just so much more utility to this card, I think, than what Temple of the False God offers. And I think everyone should just replace all their copies of Temple of the False God with this new card. This is a quote-unquote new staple, as I said. So go out and get yourself one, get yourself a bunch of them, get yourself this card, because this card will fit into all the slots that Temple of the False God was taking. Anyway, guys, I hope you have found this informative and hope you have enjoyed this little video. And if you would like to help us out, you can do so by going onto our Patreon or by just sharing, and subscribing the video. Thank you so much for watching, and hope to see you again in another video.